and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
So today I'll be continuing with my college football game-by-game prediction and roster discussion videos today. I'll be doing the Texas Tech Red Raiders. So Texas Tech had the 42nd ranked recruiting class in the country in 2025. They didn't have any 5-star players, but they did have 2 4-star players. So starting on the offensive side of the roster, they were really good here last year. They ranked 4th in the country in scoring, and they ranked 9th in passing, averaging 296.7 yards passing per game. And I think they'll be similar to that this season. So at quarterback, Bayron Morton comes back, who is a very good quarterback. He started 24 college games. He started all 12 regular season games last year. He didn't play in the bowl game because of an injury, but last season he had 3,335 yards passing and 27 touchdown passes and completed at 63.3% of his passes, which is pretty good. And he had a decent 7.2 yards per throw average, but he's not a very good runner. So at wide receiver, they're in very good shape. Caleb Douglas comes back, who is for sure a future NFL wide receiver. He had last season 60 catches for 877 yards and 6 touchdowns, averaging 14.6 yards per catch. Here's a clip of him making a very impressive catch.
Box, now he backs up. He's the slot corner. Hammond lets it rip. 50-50. Douglas took it away. How do you like that?
And they've got Coy Eakin coming back, who had last season 49 catches for 652 and 7 touchdowns, averaging 13.3 a catch. And they bring in a good wide receiver from Miami, Ohio, Reggie Virgil, who had last season in 13 games 41 catches for 816 and 9 touchdowns, averaging a very impressive 19.9 a catch. And at running back, they aren't going to be quite as good here, losing Taj Brooks. He had over 1,500 yards rushing each of the last 2 seasons. But they do bring in Quentin Joyner from USC, a 4-star running back who will be the starting running back this year. He was running back number 2 for USC last year. He only got 63 carries, but he did have on that 478 and 3 touchdowns, averaging a really impressive 7.6 yards per carry in 12 games. And on the offensive line, they do only have 2 starters coming back, but those 2 starters are really good players. Center Sheridan Wilson, who only allowed 13 quarterback pressures and no sacks last season, and right guard Davion Carter, who only allowed 1 sack and 9 total quarterback pressures last season. And they did bring in 3 transfers that were all good players where they came from. It just depends on how well they play together as a team. But it does have the ability to be a good offensive line. So on the defensive side of the ball, they were terrible here last year. They ranked 121st in points allowed per game. They were especially bad against the pass. They ranked near last in the country at stopping the pass, giving up 308.1 yards passing per game. They've got to be a lot better defensively this year, and I think they're going to be. The defensive line for Texas Tech, I think, is going to be the biggest strength of their team. They bring in five really good defensive linemen from the transfer portal. I'm an Ole Miss fan, and this defensive line for Texas Tech reminds me a lot of the Ole Miss defensive line from last year, where they had a bunch of game-changing players. Now, I don't think the Texas Tech defensive line this year quite has the ceiling that that defensive line did, but I think it's got the ability to be close to as good. And Ole Miss had the second best defensive line in the country last year, so Texas Tech, I think, is going to have one of the best defensive lines in the country if they can get those players to play well together as a team. So they bring in David Bailey from Stanford, who has started uh, 16 games in college and played in 33 college games. He's a senior. He only started 2 games last year, but played in all 12 games and had 31 tackles and 7 sacks and 39 total quarterback pressures and 5 forced fumbles and a pass breakup. And they bring in Lee Hunter from Central Florida. He's a senior who has started 23 college games. Last season, he had 45 tackles and a sack and 27 total quarterback pressures. And they bring in Skylar Gill Howard from Northern Illinois, who had last season in 12 games, 51 tackles and 5 sacks and 29 total quarterback pressures. And they bring in from Georgia Tech a 4-star defensive lineman, Romello Height, who had last year in 12 games, 34 tackles and 2.5 sacks and 32 total quarterback pressures and 2 forced fumbles and an interception. And they bring in a transfer from Houston, AJ Holmes, who had last year 40 tackles and 2 sacks and 26 total quarterback pressures. And the linebackers for Texas Tech is one of the best linebacker combinations in the country. They've got 2 future NFL linebackers, Jacob Rodriguez and Ben Roberts. So Rodriguez last year was a tackling machine. He had 127 tackles and he had 5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles and 4 pass breakups and an interception and 22 total quarterback pressures. And
Inexcusable.
So ball inside the 20. Scatterboo lowers the hand and he is thumped.
Roberts had 83 tackles and 3 forced fumbles and 18 quarterback pressures. This is going to be the best front seven in the Big 12, I think, and this is, I think, going to be a very high pressure defense. So in the secondary, they did add in 3 good transfers to where I think now their secondary will be solid. So they bring in 2 transfer cornerbacks, Dante Balfour from Charlotte, who has started 23 games the last 2 seasons there, and has in that combined 103 tackles and 22 pass breakups and 3 interceptions. And they bring in Bryce Pollock from Mississippi State, who had last season 48 tackles and 9 pass breakups and a forced fumble and an interception. And they did bring in a transfer safety, Cole Winowski. He comes from North Dakota State, but he was one of the best safeties at the FCS level. So he didn't play at all last year because of an injury, but in 2023, he had in 14 games. But 92 tackles and 8 interceptions, five pass breakups, and a forced fumble. And one of his interceptions was ran all the way back for a touchdown. And they do have one starting cornerback returning and one starting safety. They just both need to play better. So now for the game by game predictions. Texas Tech's first two games against the Arkansas Pine Bluff and Kent State will be big blowout wins. Arkansas Pine Bluff, they'll probably win like 70-0, and they'll be able to put in their backups at halftime in both of these games. So now in Oregon State, its offensive line is going to be no match for the Texas Tech defensive line. So I don't think they're going to be able to score much in this game, and their defense is not going to be able to slow down Texas Tech. I don't think. I think this is a blowout win for Texas Tech. So now on the road at Utah. This is an interesting matchup because Utah has an offensive line that I think is as good as Texas Tech's defensive line. So I think Utah's offensive line can handle them, and Utah will be able to run some in this game. And on the other side of the line of scrimmage, Texas Tech's offensive line and Utah's defensive line both have several new starters this season, but I would trust Utah's defensive line more than Texas Tech's offensive line because of Whitting, Ham. I do think that Texas Tech is the best team in the Big 12 this year, but the Big 12 is such an even conference that no team is going undefeated in it. I'm going to go with Utah to get a really close win. So now on the road at Houston, Houston's offensive line, like Oregon State's, is going to be no match for the Texas Tech defensive line. Houston won't be able to score much in this game. I don't think. Now Houston will, I think, have a solid defense. So I don't think Texas Tech is going to put up 45 points in this game, but I still don't think this game is going to be close at all. I think that Texas Tech gets the win pretty easily. So now Kansas. So Kansas's offense, I think, will be pretty good at the positions that actually score the points. Quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. The problem for them, I think, is going to be their line when they go up against a really good defensive line like Texas Tech. Now, a good thing for Kansas going against a high pressure defense like Texas Tech is going to have is Kansas has a good running quarterback at Jalen Daniels, so he'll be able to probably get them a few good runs in this game. But Kansas's offense leaned heavily on running backs last year, and they're not going to be able to help them much, I don't think, in this game. And Kansas's secondary, I think, is going to be very weak, and that's going to be really bad going against the Texas Tech passing attack. I think Texas Tech wins this one by a couple of scores. So now on the road at Arizona State. So Arizona State, I think, will be a little bit better running team than Texas Tech because they have a better offensive line. But Texas Tech has a better front seven. Even though I do think Arizona State has one of the best front sevens in the Big at 12. So that kind of evens the run game out in this one. And Texas Tech is a better passing team than Arizona State, and their secondaries are pretty similar. So even though it's on the road, I'm going to go with Texas Tech to get this win in a really close one, but I would not be surprised at all if Arizona State won this game. And now Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is a team this year that, if it wasn't for Mike Gundy still being there, they wouldn't really even be worth paying attention to because I know Gundy is a proven coach, but Oklahoma State's roster on paper might be the worst in the conference this year. Their defense, I don't think, is going to be able to stop Texas Tech hardly at all, and their offensive line, I think, is going to get pushed around by Texas Tech's defensive line. And Oklahoma State lost all their good offensive players, so there's a good chance they could get shut out in this game. I think this is a blowout win for Texas Tech. So now on the road at Kansas State, this one's going to be close. But Kansas State's a team that is going to lean heavily on their run game. So if they go against a team that can slow down the run, like Texas Tech will be able to do, I think it'll make it not impossible, but hard for them to win. And Texas Tech and Kansas State, I think, are going to have similar secondaries this year, but Kansas State's at secondary, I do think, is going to struggle to stop the Texas Tech passing attack. I think Texas Tech's just a little bit better. So even on the road, I'm going to give them this win. But wouldn't be shocked at all if it went the other way. And now BYU. BYU is a team that I already thought didn't have much of a chance of repeating what they did last season. But now that they lost their quarterback in July, I'm for sure that they're going to take a step back, probably a pretty big step back. I don't see them as a conference championship contender this season because besides the quarterback leaving, they were already losing four starting offensive linemen and eight starters on defense, and they do not recruit at a good enough level to just be able to replace all of that. I think BYU's defense is going to struggle to stop Texas Tech, and their offense, I think, will struggle because I don't think they can handle the Texas Tech defensive line. I think Texas Tech wins this one by a couple of scores. So now Central Florida, a team that I think is for sure one of the five worst teams in the Big 12 this season. Texas Tech may score 50 points in this game. I think Central Florida's defense will be that bad, and Central Florida, I don't see getting over 14 points in this game. Texas Tech's defensive line, like with most teams this year, will have a big advantage in this game. So now on the road at West Virginia, Texas Tech, I think, is a way better team than West Virginia. And I do think West Virginia is a team that is going to be in the bottom half of the Big 12 this season. But West Virginia does get a bye week also before this game. And West Virginia, I still think, is going to beat one good team from the conference this season. And I don't think anyone in the Big 12 is even going to go 11-1 this year. I think the conference champion again will have two losses. I think it's just too even of a conference. And West Virginia is a team that I think in this game could be in a situation to where they have to win it to make a bowl game. And Joey McGuire has been a decent head coach for Texas Tech. He's not been good enough for me to be convinced that he won't lose a game that he shouldn't, even with a really good roster like this. And I think this is that upset loss for Texas Tech. Now, if you're a Texas Tech fan watching this and you're mad that I picked them to lose to West Virginia, okay, but then they are going to lose to Arizona State or Kansas State if they beat West Virginia because they are not winning all three of those games. Arizona State and Kansas State are going to be good teams, and West Virginia is a tough place to play. But I'm pretty sure that Texas Tech will lose to one of the good teams and one of the bad teams. So I've got Texas Tech finishing the year at 10-2 overall and 7-2 in the conference. So that will be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.